Okay, it's going to be a review of Survivor Series 2003. Arguably the most stacked Survivor Series of all time in terms of, talent. It almost felt like the show had, too much talent on it. But yeah, it's definitely a fun show. From a match quality standpoint, I definitely think you could argue that it's a one-match show. But you definitely had some interesting things here. But let's get right down to it. This was November 16th, 2003 from Dallas, Texas, the American Airlines Arena, the home of Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban is actually on the show. He takes an RKO from Randy Orton. He does a segment with Bischoff and the coach. So yeah, it was cool to see Mark Cuban. Stone Cold actually puts his career on the line. And, that's what this show, I think, is most known for. The Team Bischoff versus Team Austin, classic 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match. They did a great job with these Survivor Series elimination matches. They really took it. They really made them make sense. I think the stories were good. They both felt like classic, Survivor Series matches. And I think that's probably the highlight of this show. The attendance is actually 13,487. The buy rate, 450,000 buys. I got to say, phenomenal buy rate. It's up there, man. It's got to be up there. I don't have an exact figure, but it looks to me like, 2001, 2003. And I think 99 was pretty close. But, the best Survivor Series buy rate of all time, it's got to be a toss-up between 2001 and 2003. So, yeah, 450 is a good number. I think that's higher than SummerSlam 2003. And it's actually over 100,000 more than Survivor Series 2002 when they debuted the Elimination Chamber. I just think at that time there was a lot of uncertainty with the Elimination Chamber and, what to expect. And sometimes when that's the case, it kind of suffers in the actual buy rate. But, yeah, a phenomenal buy rate here. I just think, at the time, it felt like a loaded show because it had felt like, it had been quite some time. Since the rosters combined for a pay-per-view. I think SummerSlam was a little bit weird because, the Triple H injury kind of forced them into an elimination chamber. And SummerSlam 2003, the actual card, it wasn't as stacked as it could have been. But on this show, this was like the first time where they did the brand-only pay-per-views and they come together for a Big Five show. It's the first time where, one of the Big Five, or Big Four actually at the time, they didn't have King of the Ring. It just felt like both brands just combining for a super show. So I think that's another reason why the show did that well. On top of that, man, you also have Limp Bizkit doing the theme song. It's called Build a Bridge. Okay, so I gotta say, this is probably one of the more effective pay-per-view themes. If you watch the live airing of the pay-per-view, they used it really, really well to build up the Goldberg and Triple H match. It's one of the best uses of a pay-per-view theme ever. I'm not even a Limp Bizkit fan, but I gotta say, man, their themes, always worked really well for the WWE. And it just sucks, man. I'm almost like angry at myself for not backing this up because I have the VHS. Like when we had the pay-per-view party, I taped it on VHS, but I never transferred it over digitally to DVD. If you watch it on the network, it's the same exact version from the DVD. So they didn't get the rights to air the music, and it's just not the same. It's a very edited video package, and it just doesn't do the Feud justice, this edited version of it. So if you're one of those dudes that still have the original airing of it backed up, then congratulations to you, man, because that's one of the best WWE video packages of all time. I mean, it's really, really that good. So if anyone out there, man, can post a link in the description. I don't think it's on YouTube. I've been trying to find it for the last year or a couple years. It's not there anymore. But if anyone can post a link so somebody can see this video package with the Limp Bizkit theme for Goldberg and Triple H, then please do, because it worked really well. And that's another thing. They used the theme excessively to promote this show, and it definitely paid off. I just remember the show was a little bit overhyped with the promotional stuff and the actual theme. And, so that might be another reason why the show did that well. But let's get right down to it. We're going to get right down to the actual pay-per-view here. Tajiri actually takes on Jamie Noble on Sunday Night Heat. Yeah, I mean that's how stacked the show was. They cut a great match in Tajiri and Noble. But there's not a lot on this show. What took up a lot of time was Austin's like retirement speech and the Randy Orton, Mark Cuban Bischoff stuff with the coach. That took up like maybe almost 15 minutes combined right there. So there's really not a lot of matches on the show. I don't think it's a better show than Survivor Series 2002. For example, I just feel like, besides the Survivor Series elimination matches, it's, the show just isn't my cup of tea. Seeing Vince in a singles match is not for me. I'm not a big fan of Vince McMahon as a wrestler. So you got Undertaker and Kane taking on the McMahons in singles matches. So, I will say this though, like it's a unique show. It got you really excited about WrestleMania. They did some really, really creative things, on the actual show. So even though some of the matches don't have, particularly great wrestling on them, a lot of the show is really memorable for non-wrestling reasons. Like Kane actually costing the Undertaker the match. It felt huge at the time because, you had never seen Taker, go up against the unmasked Kane. So it felt fresh at the time. I don't know how this is going to age for everybody, though. But let's get right down to it. First match tonight, we got Team Angle taking on Team Lesnar. So, yeah, Team Angle with no Charlie and Shelton felt a little bit weird. I would definitely agree with Kurt. I think they pulled the plug too soon on Charlie and Shelton. I really feel like you could have got a lot more out of it. But, the Kurt Angle neck injury, man, it just didn't hurt Kurt. I think it hurt a lot of people as well. But we got Team Angle. You got Angle and Benoit teaming up together at Survivor Series. Doesn't get any better than that with the brand new babyface in John Cena. So I love this team. Angle, Benoit, Cena. And then you got Hardcore Holly and JBL as Bradshaw here still. So Hardcore Holly's actually out for revenge against Brock Lesnar because Brock broke his neck, early in 2002, so in September, going all the way back to September of 2002. So, almost a 14-month wait for Hardcore Holly. I think that's one of the reasons why Brock left WWE. I just don't think he liked working with Hardcore Holly. So that's kind of a joke. But someone actually asked me, why did Brock leave to go to the NFL? Sometimes I just be a smart ass and say, oh, it's because of Hardcore Holly. He didn't like working with him. Because so many people are so negative on this Hardcore Holly stuff. All right, so Team Lesnar is actually Brock, Big Show. So Brock and Big Show unite here. I believe this is actually put together by Paul Heyman. Matt Morgan, the superstar Matt Morgan, going up against his future Bound for Glory mate in Kurt Angle here. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, Angle actually did eliminate Matt Morgan here. They would be opponents at Bound for Glory 2009. So that is the first time I realized that. Nathan Jones, who looks like, a villain from a Schwarzenegger Stallone movie here. But, man, he just did not do anything here. They just, once again, a lack of trust, just like at WrestleMania. And then you got A-Train. A-Train actually gets eliminated quite early by JBL with the clothesline from hell, so he's out of there. Hardcore gets eliminated right away because he gets disqualified for attacking Brock before Brock even jumps onto the apron to do his pyro entrance. So yeah, man, I thought this was a fun match. The most negative part of this match for me is Kurt. Kurt, he got the hot tag. The fans are going crazy for Angle. He gives Matt Morgan a bunch of German suplexes. He does a drop kick to Nathan Jones to kind of, ground him. He puts Matt Morgan away with the ankle slam. He makes Nathan Jones tap out with the ankle lock. He tosses Big Show over the top rope, and then Brock just comes out of nowhere and gives him the F5. So at the time, Kurt actually, broke his neck again. Brock actually gave him a chair shot leading up to this match. And, Kurt I think he was out of action until the Rumble. He wasn't cleared to wrestle until the Rumble. So it was just like these little, re-aggravating the neck, injuries that was, plagued Angle for a long ass time, all the way up until at least WrestleMania 21. I just don't think, Kurt, had any stability until you get to WrestleMania 21. So yeah, this was a lot of fun for me. I think the match could have went a little bit longer. I think it could have been a little bit better, but you know, it was one of the few times Benoit and Brock went at it. I thought the stuff between them was great. Cena actually comes out with a Joe Namath jersey to open up the show, and you know, did a couple of battle raps. He had some really nice references to the ambulance and the grave. He's like, they need to make that grave bigger, and then he took a line at the Big Show where he said, "Don't worry, I didn't forget about you, homie. You're a giant. Well, I'm a giant whistle, so go ahead and blow me." So I thought the Cena raps were pretty good. You know, even though Cena was a freshly turned babyface, it didn't feel like it was that watered down. The Joe Namath jersey was interesting too, because it's relevant today, because everybody thought Aaron Rodgers was going to carry the Jets to the first Super Bowl since Joe Namath. But I don't know, man. I just I feel bad for Jet fans, because you got all these Jet fans that are, you know, grew up with Joe Namath, that are you know, approaching their 70s, and they're just worried that they're never going to see the Jets win a championship again. And it's possible. It's possible they might never win a championship, you know, for a long ass time. But yeah, you know, Cena rocking the Joe Namath jersey, that was definitely a highlight for me. But yeah, man, I thought Cena looked good here. Him and Brock worked together well. He actually busted out the throwback on Brock. I thought Brock sold his ass off for both Cena and Benoit, and it's actually Benoit that actually makes Lesnar tap to the crossface, and then he got you tapped out, Chad. So yeah, you know, to me, like, you just didn't get enough of Benoit and Brock, and you finally got it on this show. The stuff that they did, it felt a little bit rushed. I wish it could have gotten more time. Like the transitions to the crossface, I just felt like they could have been a little bit more creative, you know, maybe a little bit better executed. It just felt like, you know, they just wanted to get Brock out of there. But, you know, the fact that Benoit made Brock tap, it just felt like, wow, like they're really going to, you know, give Benoit this huge push. And it kind of felt like maybe he was going to face Brock at WrestleMania 20. But, you know, that match ended up being on SmackDown. That's going to get a classic review. I think that was, you know, the first week of December of 2003. Benoit takes on Cena and Brock in the same night. But, yeah, I like what they did here, man. Big Show did some nice trash talk in the angle. You had Benoit and Cena, the sole survivors, working together. And they, you know, they were able to take apart the Big Show. Benoit actually did a flying headbutt off the top rope to Big Show, while Big Show was standing up vertically. So it's one of the few times where Benoit ever hit the flying headbutt to someone that was standing up. So I thought that was interesting. The referee was consumed with Benoit. Cena takes out the you know, the word life chain, hits Big Show in the face with it, and is able to FU the Big Show. I think for the first time, you know, fans went crazy, and, you know, Cena and Benoit shake each other's hands after, you know, they never really feuded, but, you know, they had some, you know, animosity, you know, going back to the springtime when Cena was doing the full-blown heel thugonomics thing. But it was cool to see them work together. I just, you know, once again, it kind of stood out. You know, you just didn't get to see a lot of Benoit and Cena, them tagging up together, or, you know, them just going one-on-one in a big money pay-per-view match. I think that could have been, you know, a solid WrestleMania main event as well. I think Benoit could have done a lot, you know, for Cena. But when Cena had the, you know, full-fledged babyface push on Raw, you know, Benoit was actually on SmackDown. So, you know, it might have worked better if Benoit actually took Angle's spot, you know, on Raw and had been the top heel facing Cena. You know, who knows? Maybe Benoit might have made it look a little bit more believable. You know, but it was cool to see Benoit and Cena team up together. They don't have much of a relationship in the past. You know, I think Cena actually said he just knew him strictly professionally when they did the Larry King stuff. So there we go with that. I thought it was cool. It got you really excited for WrestleMania. You knew Benoit was going to get the push. You didn't know what champion, but it kind of perfectly sets up Cena and Big Show. But I think at the time, a lot of people, you know, thought it was a possibility that Cena was going to, you know, win the Rumble and, you know, get a main event level push going into WrestleMania 20, actually. I mean, that was a possibility. You know, you didn't know whether it was going to be Benoit, Cena, or Eddie. All right, so next up we have Molly taking on Lita. Molly Holly taking on Lita for the Women's Championship. Yeah, I thought Molly looked good here. She had, you know, the dark hair. She's taking on Lita. What this match did was it finally gave you, you know, a fresh babyface in a women's championship match other than Trish. I mean, I think Trish was, you know, a babyface on, you know, almost every single women's championship match, you know, going back to Survivor Series 2001. So it finally gave you somebody different. You know, Lita just came back from the injury. It was good, but this just had heel going over written all over it. You know, you had a huge babyface opener, so you kind of knew Molly was going to win this thing. But I thought Lita looked good. You know, she definitely looked a lot better here than she did at Survivor Series 2000. I mean, she looked a little bit green there. You know, from a fundamental standpoint, I would definitely say she looked better here. But Molly goes over. This is the, definitely the weakest thing of the show. Definitely the shortest match on the show. So we'll move on from there. Next up, we have Kane taking on Shane McMahon in the ambulance match, the rematch from Unforgiven, the blow-off match. All right, so for the video package here, they actually use that, that public domain, over-the-top music. True Slayer used to use it in his videos. Not the Mother song, but the second song True Slayer used to use, going back to 2008. Just a bunch of highlights from the Kane and Shane feud, with Kane power driving Linda and Shane just being out for revenge. So yeah, it's a weird storyline. So it's Kane beating up on Linda. It only offended Shane, but because Vince is a heel, he's cool with it, and because Stephanie is on SmackDown, she has no involvement in it. So it's a really weird storyline. But the Kane and Shane stuff. Shane actually gets the cover here. A fall from grace is the actual tagline. So this is actually an ambulance match. I thought it was pretty good. If you were to ask me what's the better match, the Unforgiven Last Man Standing match or this ambulance match, I would pretty much say they're on the same level. I mean, I can't say that one is better than the other. There were moments in this match that I did not like, but there was other points where it just felt great. It felt like Shane was just emptying the tank. I thought Kane showed a lot of viciousness. It legitimately felt like he got pissed when he got dropped on his head. So the opening segment of the match, Shane actually clotheslines Kane out of the ring. Kane actually, I swear to God, the camera man fucked it up, but it looked like he's got spiked on his head on the outside, and it looked like Kane just got pissed about that. Somehow, some way, Shane is able to hit the elbow drop through the table. So Shane does his signature. Elbow dropped through the table. The fans go crazy for that. Then they kind of brawl backstage, and they're actually fighting in this security booth. And Shane is actually telling to bring the ambulance to the back. And then there's a lot of kendo stick stuff. Then they fight all the way back to the ambulance inside the arena. It's weird. Most of the match actually takes place, right by the ambulance. The highlight will be just Kane. Kane took some nasty. I have no idea how Kane didn't get a concussion from it. One of the door shots where Shane actually takes the ambulance door and just slams it against Kane's head. I have no idea how Kane was able to take that bump without getting a concussion. It looked nasty. There's several times where, Kane is going to try to shut the ambulance, and then, Shane comes out of it. So some of those near ambulance, door spots are pretty cool. They came off pretty good. So Shane actually sets up a trash can, on the ring aisle. And then he takes out this big wooden box just as a cushion. And then off the top of the ambulance, he does that coast to coast, that Van Terminator that RVD used to do. So it's the Van Terminator on the trash lid, into the ring aisle. So, that was probably the biggest spot in the match. But, Kane is, able to pile drive Shane in the ring aisle to kind of, very symbolic, the same way he pile drove Linda for a definitive victory here. So Shane actually loses to Kane. They want to make Kane look strong into, going into WrestleMania 20, so you definitely understand it. But yeah, I'm not crazy about ambulance matches. This is really the most memorable one. I think they all pretty much involve Kane. I think they did Kane and Cena. Was it at No Way Out or Elimination Chamber? Right before WrestleMania one year. I thought that reeked of filler. This was a lot better though. I think, the Kane and Shane stuff. If you want to argue with me that, Shane was a much better fit than RVD, for these type of matches, then I'm fine with that. But, Kane is getting a monster push at WrestleMania 20. He's good at main event Armageddon. So you definitely understand it. All right, next up we have the Basham brothers. coming out there with Shaniqua, Linda Miles, to take on the Guerreros for the tag team titles. All right, so this is something that could have been on SmackDown. I like the fact that Eddie was on the show. I really wish Eddie would have been in the Survivor Series match with Team Angle. I thought that would have been really cool. But I think at the time, like the goal was to make Eddie like a sympathetic babyface, and you really couldn't get there unless you do this stuff with Chavo, because Chavo is really good at just playing that controlling heel that can kind of talk down to you. And even after this match is over, they do the same. They kind of do the same thing with the Guerreros, costing each other the match. During the match, Chavo does a tornado DDT. He actually kicks Eddie by accident. And then Eddie gets all hot about it. And then Chavo just kind of talks down to him, like he basically blaming it on Eddie. And Eddie just kind of takes it. So it's about building tension. It's about building up Eddie as this sympathetic babyface. So I don't know. I mean, this is a match right here that just reeked of, a WWE heel style with a heel manager. Shaniqua did some interesting things here where she tried to confuse the Guerreros about which Basham was in the match, because they both look like identical twins. They're both bald. They both pretty much look the same from a distance. So, during the match, Eddie and Chavo actually take out Shaniqua. I think Eddie frog splashes her, and then they start, smacking her on the ass. They just start, spanking her. And, that kind of cost them the match. And the Bashams are okay here. I can't, once again, this is another match where I can't say, like, looking at Doug and Danny Basham, like, I can't say, oh man, these guys are extremely talented. They just felt like your generic WWE heel team, that had a manager. That's really all I could say about them. They did have some nice double team moves. They actually did schoolboy Eddie for the finish. And, yeah. Or they actually schoolboy Chavo for the finish. Eddie's the one that actually got hit by Chavo. So, and we move on from there. Next up, we have what we're here for. We got Team Bischoff of Chris Jericho, Christian, Randy Orton, Scott Steiner, and Mark Henry. And they're taking on Team Austin of Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and the Dudleys. 5-on-5 classic Survivor Series elimination match. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is the match of the night. I got to say that this might be, JR actually said during the match, this is one of Shawn Michaels' best performances ever. And I have to agree with it. And it's probably like his best performance ever at Survivor Series. Like when you look at the history of Shawn at Survivor Series, especially like in the 90s, like it didn't go that well. Like there's really not much to choose from. Like the highlight would probably be the Brett match from Survivor Series 92. Like even the match against Sid in 96, he took a lot of criticism for, being unprofessional in that match. And then Survivor Series 97, that match, no one ever says that the match with Brett is a great match at the Montreal Screwjob. People are very negative on the fact that Shawn knew and, he screwed Brett out of the title. So, that doesn't get a lot of love either. And, even the Rockers split match, that doesn't really get a lot of love as well. So there's really not a lot I could point to in the history of Shawn at Survivor Series, and it could say, yeah, that was a monumental Shawn performance. It's funny, like the first 2 years Shawn is back in 2002 and 2003, like these are by far like his most memorable work at Survivor Series. So it's a good match, man. The story was predicated around Austin breaking his neck. After WrestleMania, Bischoff actually fired him because, he had his neck had deteriorated over time. It goes back to that final, same thing with Edge, with the fusion surgery, over time, the neck just deteriorates. It gets stretched out, and then you have to have more fusion. So it's funny. Everyone thought fusion is the best option at that time because they see what happened to Kurt, where Kurt just kept injuring the neck over and over again. But, the bottom line is, Angle's very glad that he never got neck fusion. So, they thought the best thing to do is just bring Austin back as the general manager of Raw. And it was a good decision. Like, I think Austin, he didn't seem like stressed out. He seemed like he had fun the whole time. Some people would even argue like Austin was the most over guy on Raw, during the summer of 2003. But there was this storyline where he kept on, just attacking a lot of people out of nowhere. And then Linda McMahon got involved and said, Steve, you just can't put your hands on everybody. So the rules are you're going to be fired if you put your hands on somebody. You could only put your hands on somebody unless you're physically, provoked. So this started a whole storyline with guys like Batista mocking him, and Jericho, was mocking him. Even the video package here is funny. Jericho's like, there's nothing you could do about it, Steve. I remember people were laughing at that during the pay-per-view party, with Jericho. And even before the match, Jericho's like waving bye-bye to him. He's like, bye-bye, Steve. Bye-bye, Steve. So, yeah, this Jericho-Austin stuff, it's a shame that Austin wasn't healthy, because I think this probably would have been the best, stuff I think Jericho and Austin had done together, especially like, in the storyline. But yeah, Austin and Bischoff, it's well documented that those two guys didn't like each other. And, the stipulation was that if Austin's team loses, then he has to retire. But if Austin's team wins, then he could, do whatever he wants. I think that's the actual stipulation here. So, yeah. And then the actual storyline as well. He has to convince Shawn to be on the team. It's funny because Austin's the one that kind of sent Shawn packing with the bad back at WrestleMania 14. And now it's a situation where Austin is actually asking Shawn to fight for his career. So it's an interesting story. I really enjoy the dynamic between Austin and Shawn, and the very serious but, realistic promos, between them going into this thing. I thought that was really well done. So let's get right down to it. The actual match right here. Yeah, I mean, it's great stuff. It's got to be up there, man. This is easily, a top 5 match of the year for 2003. Like, wow, it's really got to be up there. I mean, the match was so good that Kurt Angle actually watched it and went up to Shawn Michaels and was just like, wow, man, like, you're really good, because Kurt really didn't get to see a lot of Shawn's run because he wasn't there. He was in the Olympics, competing for the gold medal. And, when Kurt finally did come in, Shawn just wasn't there. So, it did feel like a lot of guys were a little bit, just kind of oblivious to how good Shawn was. So, this was the night where Kurt, where Shawn really won over Kurt. And it's funny, they wouldn't touch for a while until this, but at least, Shawn made quite the impression. I guess Kurt never really, stood around for, some of the other stuff that Shawn did in 2002, like SummerSlam or even Survivor Series. I have no idea, but that's what stands out here is that, Kurt was watching it backstage and went up to Shawn. He's like, hey man, you're pretty good. So it's always been like an inside joke between them. I think when they saw each other at the Hall of Fame, that's the first thing they say to each other is, hey man, you're pretty good. So, but yeah, Shawn's performance here was, spectacular. There's no doubt about it. So I'm trying to think, this match as a whole, I wouldn't say the whole thing was a home run. I mean, if you want to give this the full 5, I have no problem with that. I mean, I thought it was that good, especially like the second half of this match. But I got to say, Scott Steiner kind of brought this thing down. I thought there was a lot of Steiner in the beginning. There was so much Steiner that one guy actually just chanted at the top of his lungs, boring, but he did it in an entertaining way. And, I don't know. There was just a lot of Steiner. There was a lot of Stacy. At this time, Steiner's a heel, and Stacy was actually cheering against Steiner. So you have that going on. Mark Henry was in the match a lot. Henry actually puts away Booker T. So Booker pins Steiner with the bookend. Mark Henry actually pins Booker T. The Dudleys actually gang up on Mark Henry together. RVD puts Mark Henry away with the frog splash out of nowhere. That looked really, really good. And then after that, I just thought the match got awesome. I'll give the Dudleys credit, man. The crowd was chanting, "We want tables." Not necessarily because they wanted tables, but, for a sign of respect for the Dudleys. You can't really chant Dudleys, so you just chant, "We want tables." So, yeah, I thought Bubba and Devon, I thought they both looked good here. I got to say, man, Jericho was incredible here. I thought Jericho, this he looked better than he did the whole year. I thought the stuff he did with RVD was good. You know, the chemistry between Jericho and Shawn was, I think, the best it ever was. You know, in this actual match, Jericho did a lot of great heel work as well. Like when RVD got eliminated, he actually takes Van Dam's neck, kind of pulls it against the rope, and then Randy does the RKO, and then Jericho just taunts Austin for the finish there. I thought that came off great. It was just total. There was a total engagement, from everybody here, to Austin, to Bischoff, to Jim Ross. I mean, people just lost their cool about this. And I'll tell you, I remember at the pay-per-view party as well, I think after Jericho got eliminated, he comes into the ring with the steel chair and clocks Michaels with it. And this one dude that never said anything, like he was like always afraid to say stuff, he just got out of his seat and just started screaming at Jericho. He's like, "Get the fuck out of the ring." So that's the point I'm trying to make here. There was a total investment in the stipulation and the actual match. It felt special. It felt like it meant something. This did not feel like a throwaway Survivor Series match. So let's get that out of the way, man. But yeah, like I said, man, the stuff between Jericho and RVD was good. I thought Van Dam had a good showing. Anytime Van Dam gets eliminated from these multi-man matches, you always get upset about it. But yeah, Randy puts him away. I thought Randy looked really good as well, man. He looked like he got even better since the match with Shawn at Unforgiven. Like he just looked strong. He looked strong. He looked hungry. He looked vicious. Thought they did a great job of making Randy look great. So eventually it came down to 3-on-1. It was Shawn taking on Jericho, Christian, and Randy Orton. And Christian actually gives Shawn a slingshot outside of the ring. So that's how Shawn gets all bloodied. I think the mindset was, that, Shawn wanted to go down fighting. Sometimes if you get some juice, it just makes it that much more dramatic. And God damn it, man, it just worked. The elimination on Christian was awesome. So Christian basically runs into a super kick. Shawn is a face full of blood. So he just kind of falls on Christian. So this is like the start of Shawn doing the super kick and just falling on guys. And that definitely paid off, going into that Triple H match on Raw, where they reversed the finish and everything. Because you got so accustomed to seeing Shawn win like that, people bought into that finish on Raw. And it started here with this super kick to Christian. So like I said, guys, the stuff between Jericho and Shawn, it looked better than ever. The Jericho looked more athletic than he did at WrestleMania. The stuff between them was great. Jericho going for the lion salt. Shawn gets his knees up. Jericho goes for the walls of Jericho. Shawn hits him with the small package. Just really well executed, lightning quick. And then it comes down to Shawn versus Randy. I got to say, the stuff between Randy and Shawn, this is the best work I think Randy and Shawn had ever done together as well. I mean, it was just bloody. There was an awesome ref bump here. Randy actually takes out the ref with a crossbody off the top rope. When Shawn's gearing up to go for the super kick, Bischoff comes in and starts kicking Shawn, and then Austin like loses his cool. He jumps into the ring. He kicks Bischoff out, and then he gives Orton a stunner out of nowhere. The fans went crazy for the stunner on Orton. That was an incredible near fall there. Yeah, Shawn had a great near fall as well. He kicked out of that Jericho chair shot that, people got pissed off about that chair shot. So yeah, Austin chases Bischoff backstage, and that kind of lays down the opening for Batista to come out. So Batista comes out of nowhere and delivers a Batista bomb to Shawn. Referee doesn't see it. Austin doesn't even see it. So Randy actually covers Shawn to retire Austin. And Randy Orton is the sole survivor. This would be the first of like 3 consecutive years where Randy Orton was the sole survivor. So there you go. Then Austin gives his retirement speech. The coach comes out to give the na-na-na-na chant. He's got his security guys with him. So the stuff between Austin and the coach, it was pretty fun. It was pretty crazy. Coach got lots of asshole chants. So you almost forget how hated the coach was, at this time. But yeah, Austin gave a great speech. He talked about how his career started in Dallas, Texas. I think at the Sportatorium. He grew up watching the Von Erichs. And so, yeah, it was only fitting. But this was just temporary, though. You know, you needed Austin to be part of WrestleMania 20. So eventually they brought him back on that December 29th Raw where, you know, Shawn and Triple H had their, you know, classic match before the end of the year. So yeah, I don't think he got to see Austin again, you know, for another month and a half. But yeah, like I said, guys, the match was great. You know, the stuff in the beginning of it with Steiner, you know, it was a little bit tough to get into at first, but yeah, I mean, if you want to give this the full 5, I have no problem with it. I just think this was a home run. I think Shawn's performance was, you know, unbelievable. I think everybody was over. There was investment from, you know, each and every side of it, whether you're a commentator or, you know, Austin was great too. Like he looked really engaged. Like the match felt real to him. That's what I'm trying to say there. So it's an incredible Survivor Series elimination match. It's definitely one of the better ones. I think that, you know, that's always been one of the problems is how can you recreate these, you know, classic elimination matches and make them feel special, make them feel meaningful. And, you know, this one did it, you know, pretty much better than any of them had ever done. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's you know, this is a dark horse for match of the year in 2003. I think this is one of those matches that's probably going to get more love, you know, over time than it got, you know, that year at the end of 2003. Okay, next up we got Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, taking on The Undertaker. Once again, we get another Buried Alive match. This time it's at Survivor Series. And so, yeah, this will be the last time you get to see the American Badass at Survivor Series, the event where, you know, Undertaker actually debuted. So it makes sense that he faces Vince at Survivor Series. This is where it all started for Taker. And he's facing the guy that hired him in the first place and you know, gave him the Undertaker gimmick. So there's a lot to like here in terms of the historical importance. It's a, you know, Buried Alive match. I think the match is a little weird. When, you know, the storyline was that, you know, Vince screwed Taker out of the match at No Mercy, the biker chain match. You know, Vince had the storyline where, you know, as long as Taker is around, he's never going to be world champion. You've seen Vince do that with, you know, guys over and over again. The most famous guy that Vince did that with would obviously be Austin, but for some reason, I think Taker was kind of taking that, you know, leader of the locker room role on SmackDown, and Vince was just a little bit more pro Brock Lesnar. So maybe that's why, you know, Vince and Taker started, you know, feuding together. So with this match right here, this is completely done to set up Taker and Kane at WrestleMania 20. And it was cool. The way they got there, it was pretty unique. You know, very predictable. From what I remember, I think it definitely leaked early that Kane, you know, was going to interfere in this match. But with this actual match, though, you know, Taker and Vince, it's a total beatdown. You know, I'm not a big fan of Vince McMahon matches, but thankfully, there's not a lot of Vince offense here with him punching. And him, you know, his punches are really bad. You know, the ones against Triple H at Armageddon, I remember those being really. Even the ones against Hogan, I guess, were pretty bad as well. But you're keeping the Vince McMahon offense to a minimal here, which is always a good thing. But Taker's just giving Vince strikes, and it's just weird. Vince starts bleeding and blading from Undertaker's strikes. It's just very weird. Taker actually gives him a couple of monitor shots by the announce table area. He's just beating the hell out of him. Then Taker, you know, this is what I forgot about. This was really cool. So Taker actually goes to the graveyard and brings out a shovel, this really, really big looking shovel, and he just nails Vince on the chest with it. It sounded great. It actually got a holy shit chant while Vince is covered in all blood. So once they go back to the grave, so the grave area is a little bit weird. So they got the tombstone looks really cool. It says Vince McMahon versus Undertaker, Survivor Series, Buried Alive. I thought that looked really cool. I just don't like the way the bulldozer looks. I don't know. I just think it looks weird. I would actually prefer it if they just shovel the dirt in it. I know it takes a long time, but I don't like the way they did it here, where you use the bulldozer to put the dirt in. I understand it's a little bit quicker. It's a little bit more precise. I just think it just looks a little over the top for me. But hey, once they get to the grave area, Vince just kind of throws dirt in Taker's eyes. He gives him a low blow. He actually gets, Vince actually gets Taker in the grave by himself, believe it or not. Somehow, some way, Taker gets Vince back down. And once he tries to go into the tractor, there's like a pyro spot, and it just blows up in Undertaker's eyes before he gets inside the tractor. Then Kane just comes out of nowhere. And, Kane's the one that, buries Taker alive. Vince has to actually, press the button inside the tractor to make it happen. It still took a long time. It still just didn't, it wasn't as quick as you would have liked. But yeah, you get Kane laughing and joking, and getting a lot of heat as he buries the Undertaker. So, at the time, it was just like, man, if you got to do Kane versus Undertaker. You never did it at this point. You got Kane unmasked. It only made sense to go to it, but I don't know, man. I just remember at WrestleMania 20, I just remember everything being disappointed with the way Taker looked, the way the match went. I just don't think it. I just don't think it was a home run. I don't think it was the worst thing in the world. But hey, I think more than anything, it gave Undertaker a reason to, be reborn as the dead man. Well, I said it a million times. I actually prefer Undertaker as the American Badass. I just think he's, better on the mic. I think he has a little bit more freedom to be himself. I've just never been crazy about the Death Valley, the dead man Undertaker. It's just not for me, but I do understand it though. I think there's a lot of people that really gravitated, toward the Undertaker character. It's a unique character, but it was never my favorite version of the Undertaker. But that's just me. All right, we're going to move on to the main event here for the World Heavyweight Championship. We got, Bill Goldberg defending the world title against Triple H. Flair is actually at ringside for the whole match here. But like I said, guys, man, the video package was awesome. So Triple H actually borrowed an idea from Harley Race. And it's funny because when you watch, when you go back around this time, the Flair DVD, I think it came out that week. I think it came out around the same time as Survivor Series. Maybe that Tuesday or the Tuesday before. So there was a storyline where, Harley Race offered someone like $10,000, I think, to take out Flair. It must have been Flair. So it's a recycled storyline, but at the same time, it was cool for the generation that wasn't around to see it. I never got to see, the old school NWA from the 80s. So I thought it was great, for everyone to see a new age, version of that storyline. The video package was just, tremendous here with everybody trying to take, Goldberg out. It ended up being Batista that won the money. He actually, stomped on his ankle with the steel chair. And, Batista's the one that actually won the bounty. And then it was funny, man. So they totally cut this video package on the network and on the DVD. But when that happened, they play that Build a Bridge song, those riffs from Build a Bridge, and it just worked so well. And then they have this sound effect with Goldberg growling like an animal, like a wounded animal, and it's totally cut from the DVD version of it. It just makes me really upset, man, because you buy these DVDs thinking like you're gonna you have the event for life on great quality, but it's not always the case. There's a couple of DVDs that WWE fucked with as well. I think Royal Rumble 2002, the Kid Rock Cocky theme, that's not on there. No Way Out 2002 is another one with the Rob Zombie theme not being there. But hey, it's expensive. They probably paid Limp Bizkit a lot of money to use the song, but it was only temporary though. I think the rights were they could only use it for the actual airing, and that was pretty much it, and for the promotion as well. So yeah, during the pay-per-view, Triple H is actually celebrating the whole show, like with Evolution. They're basically having a party. They think it's a foregone conclusion just because Goldberg is injured that, Triple H is going to win the belt back. So I get what they were going for. You know, they had Evolution celebrating with girls. This one girl actually pinches Randy Orton's nipple. It's really, really funny. But it made it a little bit predictable, though. Even my dad, that's not a big fan of the product, was watching it with us that night. And he even was smart enough to say, "Wow, it looks like they're setting up Triple H for a loss." So yeah, I mean that's exactly what they were doing here. So I mean, I think a lot of people thought, you know, Triple H was eventually going to win it back, but you just didn't know when. It ended up being an Armageddon. It wasn't here. I mean, when you watch this show, it looked like they were really building up to Goldberg and Brock, you know, for like an undisputed championship, because they did the segment with Brock and Goldberg, where Brock was denying the fact that he lost and he didn't tap out, and then Goldberg interrupted Brock. But you know, onto this match right here. Goldberg is, he has a broken ankle. His ankle's all taped up. Triple H and Flair are going to work on the ankle. There's a ton of ref bumps. There's some good work too. You know, Flair is actually doing like, you know, he's actually ramming his knee into Goldberg's ankle on the outside while the referee doesn't see it. Triple H is, you know, actually doing like a half crab. He's doing you know, the jumping knee onto the ankle. You know, he's really doing a good job of dissecting it. It's really not an exciting match. It's all about the story. It's all about focusing on the injury. Evolution is not banned from ringside. You know, there's actually a ref bump. There's a million ref bumps here. There's actually Goldberg actually kicks out of a brass knuckles spot, and then they bring out the sledgehammer. You know, somehow, some way, Goldberg intercepts the sledgehammer, and he's able to take out Orton. He's able to take out Batista. He's able to take out Flair. Looks like Triple H is going to hit the pedigree after all that. And then Goldberg is able to backdrop the pedigree. He thinks about retaliating with the sledgehammer, and the Goldberg thinks better of it. He wants to just prove that he doesn't need the sledgehammer to actually win. And then he spears Triple H. Then he hits him with the jackhammer. Triple H actually kicks out, you know, right after the 3 count. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then Triple H gets his arm up like dead. You know, as soon as the you know, the hand hit the mat for the 3rd count. But hey, it didn't really matter. Goldberg actually retains. He fights off the injury. But hey, I got to say, I think WWE did a great job here. I mean, everyone bitches about how WWE did a horrible job using Goldberg. But come on, I seriously doubt WCW, you know, gave Goldberg a better story, a better video package for him to go out and succeed. And it came off pretty well from a crowd reaction standpoint. You know, I got to say, it was pretty good. You know, they were able to follow a loaded card. I just think this was a little bit tighter, a little bit shorter than the Unforgiven match. And it just had a better story going in than the Unforgiven. The Unforgiven match, I thought it kind of dragged. I thought it went a little bit too long and was kind of anticlimactic. This, you know, this felt a little bit more unpredictable. It really did. But the match as a whole, it's still not a great match. I mean, it's probably a better way of using Goldberg to his potential than they had done in the past. I will definitely say that. So yeah, by far the highlights of the show are the Survivor Series elimination matches. You know, Shawn was just great in 2003. You know, he didn't wrestle a lot, but when he did wrestle, it was a home run. I think both Shawn and Jericho, they were just really, really good in these multi-man Survivor Series style matches. And yeah, I mean, Shawn, the performance of a lifetime. Anytime you can, you know, get the attention of someone like Kurt Angle, it's just kind of weird that Angle, you know, didn't really know that Shawn was that good. But, you know, the fact that, you know, he's able to get someone as good as Kurt Angle to actually, you know, be amazed at what he did. And everybody was amazed by it. It was a stunning performance. Even Austin just seemed, you know, really gracious and really complimentary towards Shawn. Not just this match, but the match on Raw in 2003. I'll talk later more about that match down the road. But Austin was just very complimentary of Shawn and Triple H, saying, you know, that's a match that if you want to get into the business, watch how those guys work. I got to say, everything here was great. Even RVD, I thought he gave a great performance here. And, you know, I said something in the past where it looked like Shawn was laughing at RVD during the Rolling Thunder spot. When I watched it back this time, I couldn't really notice it. So maybe I was just, you know, thinking of something that wasn't even there. So it was just kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, I thought everybody brought their A game in that match, from Jericho to Christian. You know, Randy looked awesome. You know, the Steiner stuff wasn't great, but I thought the Dudleys were really, really good in that match. So, yeah, Team Bischoff versus Team Austin. God damn. I mean, it's definitely, I got to say, man, classic match. It stole the show. So if you haven't seen it yet, that's Survivor Series 2003, and I'm out.